It is Thursday, the 11th day of April 2019. Hello there and welcome to News Tonight here on UBC TV. First though, let's have a look at what's making headlines at this hour. In our news tonight, Pan-Africanist and motivational speaker Patrick Otieno Lumumba decries monetized politics. Government clears shillings 280 billion to pay for 2 Bombardier jets. Sudan military coup topples Omar al-Bashir after protests. And in sports, FUBA launches 2019 NBL League. Hello there and welcome once again. We are coming to you live on air from Broadcast House here on Nile Avenue. On sign language this evening is Mogalu Mohammed and I am Edward Rukidi Kijanangoma. Now, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has criticized the Daily Monitor newspaper for always portraying negatively the economic performance of the NRM government, and yet the World Bank has indicated that Uganda's economy is growing at 6% per annum. The president assured the nation that the economy of Uganda is going to grow faster. Now, he was addressing officers and men of the Military Police Brigade at the Makindye Best Headquarters Makindye Division in Kampala. General Museveni is on a countrywide tour of UPDF barracks addressing soldiers. He urged senior officers of the UPDF to internalize the 4 basic principles of a liberation army, which UPDF is, and explain those principles to their juniors so as to avoid mistakes made by the traditional colonial and post-colonial armies. The president spelled out the 4 principles as patriotism, Pan-Africanism, social-economic transformation, and democracy. He advised the officers to read extensively and be knowledgeable about people's needs that are hinged on such development programs like wealth creation and social-economic transformation. General Museveni pledged 100 million Ugandan shillings towards supporting the soldiers' spouses, a savings and credit cooperative organization, SACCO. The Vice President, Edward Chionuka Sekandi, has called for dialogue as a way of ending conflict, especially in the developing countries. The Vice President was speaking to the Japanese media after a guided tour of a new Buddhist training facility below Mount Mikasa in Hyogo, that is in Japan. This story courtesy of the Vice President's press unit.
The Vice President, Edward Chionuka Sekandi, who's leading the African delegation to the 5th Buddhist International Peace Summit in the port city of Osaka, Japan, has called for dialogue as the most sure way of ending conflict, especially in the developing countries. The Vice President, who was speaking to the Japanese media after a guided tour of a new Buddhist training facility below Mount Mikasa in Hyogo Prefecture, said part of the world conflicts are as a result of socio-economic and political injustices, and called for protection of the vulnerable, especially women, children, and the elderly. Sekandi said that world peace can only be achieved when humans cease blaming each other for mistakes of the past and begin working together for a common better future without attempts of manipulation and exploitation of those with limited knowledge or tools to guard against such tendencies. He said that Uganda has taken such a step to contribute to world peace by ensuring the safety and security of the Great Lakes region, saying although it has been with a price tag fighting against armed militias in Somalia and other neighboring countries and organized crime at home, Uganda is committed in ensuring that peace prevails in the region. The Vice President commended the Buddhist leadership for promoting peace through humility and simplicity, saying arrogance, indifference, and intolerance have been responsible for some of the world's worst conflicts that could have been avoided if only those involved were humble to accept their mistakes, forged ahead with a common purpose. He pledged government's commitment in working with groups like the Buddha faith on programs, especially those aimed at improving and living conditions of the people in Uganda. Sekandi used the same occasion to invite the Japanese people to Uganda, saying the country presents a litany of tourism and other opportunities that especially the youth should explore. The Vice President is being accompanied by King Oyo and the Queen Mother of Toro, the Kamuswaga of Kochi, Uganda Ambassador to Japan Betty Akech, who have joined other royal families and government representatives from over 40 countries participating in celebrations marking the 5th Buddhist International Day being held in Hyogo Prefecture of Japan. Reporting for ABC TV News, Stephen Kanakulia Sempa.
Now, renowned Pan-Africanist and Kenyan motivational speaker Patrick Otieno Lumumba has decried commercialization of politics in Africa, describing it a killer for democracy. Now, speaking during the second National Symposium on Money in Electoral Politics, Lumumba blamed deliberate impoverishment of electorate by political leaders, as we hear in this report, courtesy of Henry Okrut.
A study conducted by Action for Finance Monitoring indicates that an approximately 2.4 trillion Uganda shillings was spent on elections in 2016. This, according to the study, was spent by both political parties and individual candidates. Civil society activists are describing it also as an example of increased expenditure on election campaigns.
I'm a Ugandan of voting age, and I've participated in all political elections since I turned 18. However, to date, I have not been approached by any one political leader to join them and pay their membership fee. Whether it's 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 50,000, I haven't been approached. So in my mind, I wonder where political parties get their funding to run their affairs from.
There is no politics without money. But money in excess can erode democratic politics. I want to submit to you that research has revealed that health, political life, and electoral hygiene cannot be realized as long as the use of money remains unrestrained.
However, some political actors have reservations over the study, questioning the authenticity of its source.
When we were walking in and out, there was at least statistics on the wall. Someone was projecting that NRM used 1 trillion in the last election. DP used 10 billion. FDC, I think, used 34 billion or something. But there was nothing like source at the bottom. I don't know whether it will again be put, but I pray that is actually put so that we know where you get such statistics. The NRM Electoral Commission, which I had from 2015, is crying for resources to make sure we do a better election. So if you think we used that money and you are saying it and putting it to the public forum, please allow us consume or allow our input first.
High or low expenditure during election campaigns all point to money becoming a function of politics. But if it is a deliberate practice by some political actors to impoverish electorates, then what remains for democracy?
Do you ever hear in many African countries that a loser has picked a phone and called the winner and said, "Brother, we had a good competition. The people spoke." The lingua franca after every African election is one. The elections have been stolen, they have been rigged. So in Africa, elections are either stolen or rigged. They are never lost nor won. And why? The reason is very simple. It is cutthroat. It is not a competition of ideas. It is a competition for occupying a lucrative casino.
The commercialization of politics is what Professor Patrick Otieno Lumumba partly blames on colonialism, an assertion Dr. Kiurankuba partly agrees with.
Africans are beginning to recognize that corruption is a cancer in our body politic. They are beginning to recognize that those who want to buy their votes don't mean well for them. They are beginning to recognize that there is enough money to change their lives if the thieves are eliminated from the political arena. They are beginning to realize that commercialization of politics is a threat to democracy. They are beginning to rise up. And I think that those who have not smelled the coffee will be surprised. They will be surprised when the ground moves from under their feet. They'll be surprised when Africa begins to elect individuals who can demonstrate that they have ideas, because the politics of the 21st century is the politics of ideas and about competition of ideas.
They stole the country from the dark-skinned Native Americans. The Rapahors, the Arawak, the Namahawk, the Grunchi, the Tiano, the Tokoma Sioux. They killed them all. And then you stand here now to give us an example of democracy. If Uganda has chosen its own brand of democracy, based on you having vote wealth, we talk about bride wealth. Can you go and complain that they have asked you for 100 cows?
The second National Symposium on Money in Electoral Politics brought together leaders across the political divide in the country who decried increased expenditure on elections. The symposium comes at a time there is a looming petition seeking to limit election financing in Uganda, with the Campaign Financing Bill of 2018 in offing. The day's theme centered on commercialized electoral processes as a barrier to democratic dispensation in Africa. Henry Okurut, UBC.
Monetized politics kills democracy in Africa. Thanks so much, Henry Okurut, for that report there. Now, the ever-growing trend of independent candidates in the political space is threatening multi-party political system in Uganda. The National Consultative Forum for Political Parties and Political Organizations are seeking laws governing the work of independent candidates and their funding.
The recent elections for administrative units, chairpersons, women councils and committees at village level had 2,178,994 leaders elected, of whom 414,317 candidates were not affiliated to any political party. This shows a growing trend of independence in the House since 2006 general elections, where 37 candidates won representation as MPs on independent tickets. The number later increased to 43 MPs in 2011 and 66 MPs as of 2016 general elections. The number is greater than the 62 MPs from all opposition political parties combined. The National Consultative Forum for Political Parties and Political Organizations in Uganda observes that this threatens multi-party democracy in the country.
Independents, most of them come from parties. Originally, they were part of a party, and they went in through the primaries. Unfortunately, they failed to go through, and when they failed to go through, they decided to become independents. But when in the primaries, they're utilizing all our resources, including the structures that we do have on the ground. But then they decide to go on their own. And this is also, of course, very disturbing, not only to the politics of what we're trying to create as the multi-parties.
Therefore, can operations of independent members of parliament lead to unnecessary expenditures in the House?
We already have a leader of opposition, and as far as we are concerned, that's insufficient. They're talking about having a dean. A dean, as you know, is someone who is representing them, and so they want to use the word block. They want to be recognized as a force within parliament. And so that also brings in many other issues, including the finances of it. Because if you have the deputy LOP, you have visa offices, so there is financial implications that are related to that. So overall, it's more or less the management of independence within the parliament that is of concern to us.
As the 2021 general election nears, The forum that brings together the 29 registered political parties and organizations in the country has met to develop regulations that govern independent candidates.
Because as you know, Electoral Commission sits with presidential candidates and their agents to determine the program. Who should be where, who should, what time we should campaign, from what time to what time, the kind of language that is acceptable, etc., etc., etc. But then the independent candidate is not obliged to what you have agreed on. So NCF has an interest, and actually it is very, very important that NCF awakens Parliament to make sure that this law is passed.
The 2018 Final Code of Conduct developed to regulate the conduct of political parties, and independent candidates cannot be implemented in its current status, since independent candidates only come into political field during elections.
So two aspects Parliament has the mandate over: participation by independent candidates and their financing. Indeed, as we have been guided, this is primarily the work of Parliament. And in fact, they should have done this yesterday.
Next week, a constituted team of technical persons comprising of legal, electoral and legislative analysts is expected to come up with a draft bill intended to govern independent candidates with sanctions against offenders. Bernard Iga, UBC.
Now, the Ministry of Finance has released the last quarter of funds to government agencies. Now, as we hear from Sandra Kahunde and Ivan Kahwa, the report says that 280 billion has been released to clear 2 Bombardier jets expected in the country this month.
Because now it is in our hands.
On the 29th March this year, Parliament convened for an emergency meeting to approve 280 billion for 2 Bombardier jets. Government, with the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, confirms the release of the funds in the fourth quarter of financial year 2018-2019.
To the suppliers. So Ministry of Works should deliver. I think you should hold them accountable. That you said the money was not there. Now these guys have released the money. When are we starting to fly Uganda Airlines?
The ministry has in this last quarter of the 2018-2019 released 4,948 billion, of which 274.1 billion has been allocated to UNRWA, 132 billion to Road Fund, and 3,143.1 billion to local government, covering 100% of the allocated funds for all the sectors.
53 billion has been provided to national medical stores to meet obligations for purchase of essential drugs. This brings the total government of Uganda releases to 284.7 billion, and the performance of the national medical stores for medicines for our health is 107%. This means that the release included a supplementary of 20 billion Uganda shillings to national medical stores, which was provided also in the course of this financial year for the shortfalls experienced, I think, in some areas, critical areas.
1,037.95 billion has been released to cater for wages and salaries, whereas a magnitude of 137.55 to cater for pensions and gratuity.
Those of you who are retiring or about to retire this quarter, you should be able to be paid your pension and gratuity. No one should run that your money has not been paid.
Meanwhile, to fast-track proper accountability from officers, the ministry urges government bodies to clear wages and salaries on time. The ministry is engaging local government leaders over returning funds to the treasury without ever using
Continue
them.
guiding them when to procure, how to deal with procurements, how to ask questions, how to do the warranting itself if it reaches that level of what, and continue training them. They always come here for training.
Key to note, the release of funds for 2018-2019 have accounted a surplus of 24 billion, accounting for 103.5%.
There has been a positive impact on pay as you earn. You know, salaries were enhanced last financial year, and on enhancement of salaries, we also take 30%. So that's not bad. And that increased the source of revenue from that source.
URA was expecting to have collected 356 billion by March this year. However, the ministry expects to meet the target in the quarter arising from tax collections. Sandra Kahunde-Agaba and Ivan Kawa, UBC News.
You have the department.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development has given iPads worth 400 million Ugandan shillings to community development officers. A commissioner in charge of children, Chairperson, says the fully updated iPads with free internet connection are intended to improve the functionality of child protection units, especially in hard-to-reach areas. James Ebitu, who represented Minister for Youth, Nachiwala Chinji, says these iPads have been given to ground workers not for personal use, but boost their response to children issues.
Work of social service delivery requires a lot of information, but there has been a challenge in having all these tools and instruments in place, but these have been packaged into one tablet as we have it now. Wherever you are, you can just tap in and access the information, and this is going to be very useful for our ground work forces who are working on the actions of children and the relevant activities.
You see, many times you go somewhere and they request you under which law, under which policy are you doing ABCD. It's easy to say, okay, let me show you the policy, let me show you the law that I'm working under.
It's going to improve on response to violence against children, because then my people are armed with the law, they are armed with the policies, and so they can quote the policies to be able to serve the people they serve better than they have been doing hitherto. That much as these tablets have been given to the different officers, the tablets remain a property of government. We have spent over 400 million Uganda shillings on these tabs, and we need to use them for the work that they have been given out for.
Ugandans have been urged to find ways of settling matters out of court to reduce the time and money they spend in courts of law. Now, this message was delivered by the Chief Judge of the Industrial Court, who officiated over the swearing-in ceremony of Chambo University Tribunal Committee.
The Act, the University Staff Tribunal Regulations, and all relevant laws of Uganda in execution of my duties. So help me God.
Preserve, protect and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, the Universities and Other Tertiary Institutions Act, Chambo University Staff Tribunal Regulations and other relevant laws of Uganda.
Many workers face problems, including denial of promotions, unfair dismissal and suspension from work. Most of the ones who fail to get fair hearing from their appointment committees end up in courts of law. The Chief Judge at the Industrial Court, Asaf Ruhinda-Nteje, says workers should explore the option of arbitration to settle their...
It is expensive to litigate a case, from filing of the case to the end of the case. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money. So both employees and employers are encouraged to settle the disputes outside the court process, which is very expensive. At the end of the day, it is cheaper in terms of cash and cheaper in terms of time.
The chairperson for the Chambo University Tribunal Committee, Mwanga Wante Elijah, explains how the committee works.
Promotion, discipline. So our jurisdiction is limited to only matters coming from the appointments board of the university. We don't hear any other complaints, but only those decisions which have been made by the appointments board, and if staff feels dissatisfied with the decision and he appeals to us. So they're supposed to appeal within 14 days.
In 14 days?
Yeah, after the decision of the appointments board has been communicated to the staff concerned.
Okay.
8 members sit on Chambo Tribunal Committee, chaired by Mr. Elijah Wante. Mr. Mwanga is one of them. Ruhinda has advice for the new team.
Always a provision in the agreement, the contract agreement of terminating with notice. But that's overtaken by the contract, by the Employment Act, which provides for a reason. And I emphasize reason. There must be a reason for terminating somebody. So if you are not dismissing him for fundamental breach of the contract, you must bring him under the process, a disciplinary process, which is giving him a chance to be heard.
The Chambo Tribunal Committee will handle issues like denial of salary, denial of promotions, and dismissal without fair hearing, among others. If the staff members are not satisfied with the decisions of the Tribunal Committee, they may appeal to the High Court within 14 days. Patrick Mugerwa compiled this report.
Now, Uganda has, since 2013, had an upsurge of refugees coming in from South Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo, two neighbors that have not been at peace for some time. Now, since most of these refugees are not about to go back, government, with support from development partners, is ensuring that host communities benefit from some of the social services offered to these refugees. Degracia Sabimana reports.
Yumbe of Western region is one of the biggest refugee hosting districts in Uganda, with close to half of its population being refugees from South Sudan. The district is also home to the largest refugee resettlement camp, also known as Bidibidi, that is home to over 224,000 South Sudanese living in 5 administrative sectors.
Bidibidi refugee settlement is the biggest settlement in the world, quote the world settlement, because they are bigger camps that have like 600,000 persons. The settlement setting where people build their houses, they have a chance at life integrated with the nationals. This is the biggest of its kind in the world.
Whereas these refugees have had a lasting impact on the social, economic, and ecological status of the host communities, there are some significant benefits that have come as a result of hosting these refugees.
And we also have 21 points where, they call it points where people can withdraw water. Hand it over to the sub-county and the district, they will be able to continue with the district.
The Office of the Prime Minister, Refugees Department, with the support from development partners like World Vision, European Union, the Canadian government, KfW, Médecins du Monde of France, DFID, Save the Children, Mukwano Industries, among others, has been able to provide a range of basic amenities.
Seeing is believing, eh?
These include is access to safe water through a motorized system, improved agriculture through irrigation, improved health centers and schools, construction of roads, enabling market revitalization, and provision of tight security.
What we are doing is we are giving them the technical support in terms of the best agronomic practices and also the startup capital and the seeds and all that. So you see what done here are the gardens, what is on this side are the nursery beds, and when the nursery beds are ready, they transfer.
This was disclosed during the Comprehensive Refugee Response Framework Steering Group field visit led by the State Minister for Refugees and Disaster Preparedness, Muso Cheru.
So I want us to make that happen. And if we are coming to bring our partners, especially the donors, to see that these are sacks of rickets that have been made by the host community and refugees, then we can talk with a bit of confidence. But each time we come here, we are talking about some ideas, very good ideas. This one, at least I'm happy we have harvested nature. This one is, to me, this is a very big step forward. We have harvested. Now, the only problem is we will need also to come and see the trouble.
Echeru head Comprehensive Refugees Response Framework that has eased services delivery to the refugees and hosting communities.
Commandant, the population here, if they are near here, our population, they should be encouraged to now develop, because it's a permanent thing. So the development should now they should nucleate around this project. Also, the settlement partner should encourage them to be near. I don't know whether these are our local people or these are.
He assured the refugees that nobody will forcefully repatriate them until such a time when they feel that their country is safe.
Many people were saying, now that the agreement has been signed, the government of Uganda is going to load you in the buses and take you. We will not send you back until we are convinced that the situation is okay. We will take a few of your leaders there to go and see, then come and tell, then we shall take you back. We don't want to take you through the bushes the way you came. We are going to take you in a more dignified way when it comes to
Uganda is one of the biggest refugee hosting and hospitable countries in the world, with an estimated 1.2 million refugees, mainly South Sudanese, Congolese, Rwandans, Eritreans, Ethiopians, Kenyans, and Burundians, among others. Helmana Deo, reporting for BBC News, Bidi, Yumbe District.
From Bidi to Mityana now, where sanitation and hygiene in Mityana district is worrying leaders with warning to communities to observe proper hygiene. Now this follows residents of Kachindu Town Board in Mityana district littering garbage and poor latrine coverage.
This is Kakindu Town Board in Mityana district, one of the small towns in the area where the latrine coverage is at 65%, posing a challenge of poor sanitation. Local leaders task landlords who don't have modern latrine facilities and communities to stop littering garbage, which could cause outbreak of diseases like cholera and dysentery. The Kachindu LC3 chairperson James Semango warns landlords that council will close down buildings without latrines. This was during a community work session where students of Victory School of Beauty and Hospitality Management, led by Director Robert Kasibante, gathered garbage slashed within the town, including Mwera Healthy Center 4.
Put forward sensitization, especially to avoid like cholera. And now we have received rains. We have to be clean so that we avoid many diseases coming from being dirty.
It was a call to maintain proper hygiene and sanitation to avoid the outbreak of deadly diseases.
Toward allowing, I found that the people who are responsible for everything in this area, they need to fight to make sure that they move around to see that these programs and maybe the toilets and maybe the kitchen, they are separate, such that people can maintain the cleanliness in their home areas. Because at times you find some people, instead of taking money to the school, they use money for hospitals.
They later donated mattresses and other items to Mwera Healthy Center 4 in Busuju. Salongo Kasibante with this report.
It's coming to 35 minutes after 10. We'll now take a short break, but we'll return with news pertaining to business. Stay with us.
Every dream has a challenging journey. Ours began in 1998 with a mission to drive the development of a robust communications sector in Uganda. We created structures to champion the dream. We've evolved, made discoveries, supported great minds, empowered Ugandans, and fostered a vibrant culture, enabling communication for all. Down the years, we've created memories and networks, uniting generations and building great partnerships. Together, we can go even further. UCC, celebrating 20 years of achievements.
Brought to you by Stack Online has made it possible. Log on to www.stackonlinetradeshow.com or download our app from Google Play Store or Apple Store. Seek, find, trade with Stack Online.
Welcome back from that short break, and let's have a look now at what's happening in the world of business. Uganda will announce its second licensing for oil and gas exploration next month. Now, Engineer Aaron Muloni, the Minister for Energy and Mineral Development, said the announcement will be followed by the signing of the final investment decision. Dennis Sigoa reports.
The East African Petroleum Conference, due May 8th to 10th in Mombasa, Kenya, will provide opportunities for member states to demonstrate a unified vision for its oil and gas resource.
These conferences provide an opportunity for us as East Africa partner states to engage, to promote and build blocks, network, and see how we maximize the benefits from this resource as East African community. You recognize and realize that when you look at the East African partner states, each of us has this God-given resource, and we are at different stages of exploitation.
Minister of Energy and Petroleum confirmed that Uganda will announce its second licensing to the world at the meet. The licensing will open up the field for oil exploration opportunities of new acreage, which has 3 commercial areas covering both onshore and offshore blocks. Although some sectors are ring-fenced for nationals to invest, collaboration is critical in stamping Ugandan's presence in the industry.
We want Ugandans to be part of this development. We don't want to be observers on a resource that belongs to us. We may have shortcomings like capacity in terms of finance, in terms of technology, in terms of technical know-how, and this is what we've been trying to build. Our business community, we want them to build the financial muscle through partnering. If you do not have money, but you have the idea, you have the will, you have the passion, we have to make money. You find someone of similar mind, you enter into partnership. The other person brings in money, you bring in your technical know-how, your physical presence, you're able to mobilize and build a team, and therefore offer a service and make money.
Uganda has confirmed 6 billion barrels of oil, representing 10% of the Albertine Graben, established in the first round of licensing. Dennis Igoa for UBC News.
Electricity tariffs in the country have been reduced by 7 shillings to make power affordable to consumers. Now, this comes at a time when Uganda records a hydro power generation capacity of over 1,000 megawatts after the commissioning of Isimba Power Dam. Details with that.
Isimba Hydro Power Dam added 183 megawatts of hydropower production capacity to the power grid of Uganda. Considering that only 30% of the population accesses electricity, the Electricity Regulation Authority asserts that the surplus power will benefit the investment climate of the country, as the sector also targets 60% national electrification by 2027.
Power supply security is very good for this country, and the public should not look at only Isimba and Kanuma and believe that this is enough to fuel this economy. We need a lot of generation capacity to be able to extend power to all the Ugandans so that the Ugandans can enjoy using this power, but more so to fuel the small to medium industries and large industries so that we are able to remain competitive, we are able to create jobs, we are able to develop the economy.
As a result, the first 15 units of electricity bought have been reduced from the cost of 257 shillings to 250 shillings. The cost of the units bought above the first 15 are now 700 shillings.
We have a social tariff because in the determination of the price of electricity, we recognize that they are the poorest of the poor who may not afford the cost recovery tariff. So we have what we call the social tariff. At the moment, it is at 250 shillings per unit of energy, per kilowatt hour. And we believe that this social tariff, together with the free connection of the electricity to people's premises where you require no pole or one pole, should help us to extend power to all the Ugandans, and the Ugandans should be able to enjoy the electricity, because for these first 15 units you need less than 10,000 to be able to enjoy clean energy.
Uganda utilizes a power generation mix consisting of hydro, solar and biomass electricity. However, despite the high dependency on hydro, experts state that it is important to differentiate between total installed capacity and actual total electricity capacity in accordance with the resources that provide the power.
And you see, as a regulator and as a sector, remember it said, we don't want to sit here and someone wakes up and he says, I want 100 megawatts in 3 months. As a sector, you will start to sweat, because you know you want the megawatts, but you're limited in terms of time delivery. So this time we've gone there, we want to know if you are going to be in Kapeka, what else is in Kapeka? Rather than building one car line to go there for you, we might take a line that can handle capacity of other 3 people, and we can tap into that demand in the next coming 3 years.
70% of homes in Uganda still depend on firewood as a source of power. For UBC Business, Wadulo Mark Arnold.
Thanks, Mark Arnold, for that report there. Now, Uganda's coffee production is expected to increase after a partnership with Vietnam, the world's second largest coffee producer. Minister for Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries says the partnership targets 14 areas, including marketing, training, research, sharing and technical information. Mr. Vincent Sempija announced the partnership and its strategy at Uganda Media Center here in Kampala.
The partnership in coffee production between Uganda and Vietnam, signed earlier this year, will also cover exchange of technical personnel, research, information and training of personnel.
The Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries remains committed to leading this drive through the promotion of production of coffee in the country and forging strategic partnerships with the nations that have exhibited exemplary progress in exporting coffee. More recently, the Ministry has been seeking official collaboration with the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, which is known to have experienced an increase in coffee exports from less than 2 million 60 kilogram bags in 1991 to 27.5 million.
Vietnam is the world's second largest coffee producer after Brazil. But Vietnam uses modern methods of agriculture such as irrigation, fertilizers and modern tools. It maintains spacing at 3 square feet as opposed to 10 feet in Uganda.
It is in priority water. Water. Without water, we are just playing around. So water is priority number 1. And we saw it demonstrated there at coffee farms, irrigation systems, the infrastructure. But the water for production is very expensive. That's where, as government, it is required that we really dedicate funds, big funds, not small funds, big funds, because this is the backbone of production. The second one is fertilizers. You have heard from the Honorable Minister. We are just joking or we are doing nothing. We can't have 4 kilograms per hectare. Somebody is at 1,000 kilograms per hectare and you think you are traveling the same. It's like using a car and somebody is using a plane and you are all saying we are going to London. When will you reach there? With your car or your bicycle? Actually, it's a bicycle.
If the partnership is effective, Uganda could expand market to earn foreign exchange that has been declining in the recent years. For UBC TV News, I am Philip Aguta, reporting from Uganda Media Center in Kampala.
African Alliance pioneer stockbroker on the stock exchange has quit business. Now, the firm, with over 15 years of operation, has officially announced quitting stock business, but will serve investment banking needs for its clients. Now, quitting of African Alliance from Uganda's stock market exposes the slow performance and growth of Uganda's stock market.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Our leaving the market does not mean we shall not come back. We were pioneers in the market, and don't take our leaving as an indication of a market that is perhaps closing. No, we've made our own personal decisions here as a company, and you will see African Alliance
continue to be in the market for our advisory business. The advisory business for the last 10 years has been the front runner in terms of our income. So we'll focus on advisory business, and should any of the advisory business require listing, we will cooperate with the Uganda Securities Exchange in getting those listings to come.
This happening is not going against the master plan or saying we failed. One should really realize that equity markets are cyclical. So you have times they're up, there are times they're down. Now in our market in particular, we are seeing a downward trend. Numerous factors that have been alluded to in earlier discussion. A lot of foreign investors leaving, currency risk and having to hedge, Umeme concession, which was one of the big training. Investors want to know a little bit more about that. But when you look at the strategic, the master plan, we've been able to actually achieve and tick off quite a number of initiatives that have been quite positive. We as the market here, we're setting up a Commodities Exchange. We're in detailed discussions with the central bank to connect this market to the government bonds market, and we believe that should happen probably later this year. We have been able to talk about increasing listings, and this conversation of mandatory listings and the like has been driven by the capital markets alongside the Ministry of ICT and Cabinet and Government. So we're doing a lot. It's just that with the limited number of securities we have on the market, local, 9, there's not much to go around.
Thank you.
Brought to you by Stack Online has made it possible. Log on to www.stackonlinetradeshow.com or download our app from Google Play Store or Apple Store. Seek, find, trade with Stack Online.
International news, and we go to neighboring Sudan, where after nearly 30 years in power, Sudan's President Omar al-Bashir has been ousted and arrested, the defense minister says. Speaking on state TV, Awad Ibn Auf said the army had decided to oversee a 2-year transitional period followed by elections. He also said a 3-month state of emergency was being put in place. Now, the main group behind the demonstrations immediately rejected the military's statement and urged people to remain at a sit-in outside army headquarters. Now, protesters want a civilian council to lead the transition rather than a military one, and that is according to correspondents in the area. Now, Mr. Bashir's exact whereabouts are not known. And that was international news. We'll take a short break and return with what's happening in the world of sport. Now, the 2019 National Basketball League resumes with defending champions City Oilers taking on rivals Betway Power in the men's category, while newly crowned defending champions JKL Dolphins face off 4-time league champions KCCA Leopards in the women's league at the MTN Arena in Ligogo.
Uganda's top-flight basketball teams for both men and women will lock horns in the first opening encounter in the National Basketball League that climaxes Friday. This was unveiled during a press briefing by the Federation of Uganda Basketball Association's president, Nasa Serinjoji.
We expect it to be very exciting. The teams have beefed up to make sure that there is enough competition. We all know that the current champions, City Oilers, have won the championship 6 years in a row. But from what we have been seeing in the pre-season, I have seen the power manager around here. They have regrouped and beefed up. So we think tomorrow's game is going to be very interesting. And
his technical team targets a cashless entry where fans are advised to secure entry cards to watch all the games for the season's tie.
Using a season ticket, for example, in the regular season you have 222 games, and ordinarily if one were to watch all the games you would be parting with about maybe 1.2 million shillings.
Meanwhile, in the Women's League, the Federation has laid strategies to ensure the women's games are impressed by the fans, like the way they turn up in big numbers to watch the men's games.
One-offs where we might make it free for the fans. For example, ladies' nights here and there, maybe free before 6 p.m. to sort of rally the fans to come and watch.
Makerere Sparks, YMCA Lady Hamsters, Makerere University were promoted to Division 1 in the Women's League, while Kampala University Eagles as well as Falcons will have to prove their worth in the men's division. The Federation will be awarding the best player after every game and monthly awards to be given, as well as the best coach for both men and women. City Oilers Shooter 2018 League Men's MVP Laundry Ndikumana, Stefan Omony and Joseph Chuma are some of the players to look out for during the league. For UBC, Helen Barber.
And finally, chess, where over 100 chess players are taking part in the second edition of the National 2019 Chess Open that started Thursday at Mackinnon Suites in Nakasero. Seychelles, Kenya, Tanzania, Sudan, as well as host Uganda, are among the eight countries participating in the competition for ratings in the 4-day tournament. Emmanuel Mwaka, the President of Uganda Chess Federation, explained that the tournament will help boost the capacity of Ugandan players.
This event was supposed to be held in 2018, but due to issues of fixture congestion, we had the Olympiad and we hosted the Africa Juniors. The event was pushed on to 2019. It's one of the Grand Prix circuit events where players in Uganda play about 5 or 6 events, and we pick the top 3 most consistent players who represent the country in several events. This is the 4th Grand Prix event and the final. And therefore the players who are going to be representing us in the zone 4.2 and the players who will be representing us in Khartoum will be selected from here as the top 5 players.
And that sports story there brings us to the end of this bulletin. But before we leave you, let's have a quick reminder of our top stories. In our news tonight, Pan-Africanist and motivational speaker Patrick Otieno Lumumba decries monetized politics. Government clears shillings 280 billion to pay for 2 Bombardier jets. Sudan military coup topples Omar al-Bashir after protests. And in sports, FUBA launches 2019 NBL League. And that's all we had time for. Thank you so much for having kept us company and making UBC TV your channel of choice. On sign language, it has been Mogalu Mohammed, and I am Edward Rukidi Kijanongama wishing you a blessed night.
was brought to you by UCC, celebrating 20 years of achievements.